After a hectic week in high school, Andrew and Justin decided to have a sleepover at Andrew's new place. As planned, Justin arrived at Andrew's place at 8 at night. They did their assignments, and Andrew suggested grabbing a meal from the nearby restaurant. But before they left the house, Holden, Andrew's dad, asked them both to give him a hand settling the furniture, as Andrew's family had just moved into this new town. Justin picked up a box and Andrew helped. They dropped the box in the basement, but as they left, Justin noticed Andrew wasn't with him. He went back to find Andrew and saw him standing in the corner of the basement with his head continuously tapping on the large antique cabinet in the corner. He was continuously muttering in a different language, in a heavily wicked and devilish voice. When Justin caught the sight of this scene, he got terrified and shouted in a trembling voice, "Andrew, it's not safe down here. Let's go." Andrew did not respond. Gathering all the courage he had left, Justin fearfully approached Andrew and placed his shaky hand on his left shoulder. Andrew swiftly turned towards Justin and said, "Where were you, Justin?" "See what I've found? It's like an antique locket. See how beautiful it is?" Suddenly he was casual like before. It was like nothing happened. Justin tried to ask why he had been banging his head on the cabinet, but Andrew denied everything and insisted that nothing happened. Andrew's father came down and saw them both arguing. "Why are you both shouting?" "What's in your hand, Andrew?" he asked inquisitively. He took the locket in his hand before Andrew could speak anything. Justin advised them not to touch such things as they're typically cursed and can have adverse effects, but they ignored him. Holden, Andrew's father, then thanked both the kids and said, "Why don't you guys get something to eat? I've heard about a restaurant nearby. You guys will have a good time there." So they left for a walk towards the restaurant. It was a cold and chilly night. Fog smeared all over the streets, spreading to the limits of vision. Darkness penetrated all over the town, as if light hadn't been invented yet. After a mile or so, Andrew and Justin were just silently ambling. While they were walking, a dog crossed their way and started barking at them. Justin tried to calm the dog down, but Andrew asked him to leave the dog alone. Justin argued that the dog seemed in pain and might need some help. Then Andrew said, "Let me guide the dog towards the jungle." He took the dog into the bushes and the barking started to fade away until it was all gone. Andrew came out of the bushes and said, "Don't worry, the dog is at peace now." After another 10 minutes of walking, they reached the restaurant. They were waiting to place the order when Justin saw a tall lady with messy hairs all over her body. She was just behind Andrew and outside the glass wall of the restaurant. She continuously stared and frowned at Andrew, and she seemed out of breath. Justin was flabbergasted by this vicious sight and asked Andrew to look behind, but all of a sudden she was gone. Andrew tried to calm Justin with the excuse, "Hey, we've been working for so long, it must be a glitch of your senses, nothing more than that." Only one employee was present in the restaurant, and that employee also seemed scared to be there. Justin asked, "What is the matter with this town? Why does everything feel deserted?" The employee responded in a trembling voice, "You're unfortunate that you're here. The longer you stay here in this town, the lesser the chance for you to survive the cult of the tall lady. She lived in a house in this town, and she, along with her family, were burnt to death in a fire. From that day, she cursed this town with demonic cults. No life is possible in this town while she's here. I've heard that her house was renovated and someone has just moved into the house. They'll die. They'll be wretched. And he fainted while telling the story of the cult of the town. Andrew and Justin sprinkled water on him and woke him up. Andrew asked him, "If this town is dangerous, then why are you here?" He replied, "This restaurant is out of the town's boundaries. That's why I'm surviving here, as I need to earn my living here." Justin pointed towards Andrew and told the restaurant employee, "He's the one whose family has moved into that house you were talking about, and nothing is wrong with them, so just calm down." After Justin said this, the employee mysteriously started choking. His eyes were filled with horror. Justin got worried and tried his best to help the employee, but suddenly he froze, and all his motions pointed towards Andrew. And he told Justin to run, and he took his last breath. Andrew seemed displeased. Andrew was looking abnormally calm and quiet. His silence was frightening Justin, and he could not believe what had just happened, and asked Andrew to call his father. But Andrew resisted. All of a sudden, Justin caught sight of that demonic locket hanging around the neck of Andrew and lost his nerve and ran out of the restaurant. He ran and ran until he reached the place where he had seen the dog. and he saw the dog had been torn apart, with wet blood covering the side of the road.